Hello, everyone, and welcome again to another Teacher Joseph podcast. One fashionable word that we hear every day is procrastination. We hear statements like, oh, procrastination is very bad. Are you guilty of procrastination? Procrastination is a terrible thing. People who procrastinate get nothing done. I think that word really needs to be reframed into something positive. I remember when I was at school, we didn't have the word procrastination back then. We were just called time wasters. I used to like looking out the school window at the mountain. I would often wonder what was on the other side of the mountain, who lived on the mountain, what was there, and the world far beyond it. My teacher would circle me like a shark waiting to pounce on me when she saw me looking out the window. She told my parents that I was a waste of time and that I wasn't able to focus or concentrate very well. In other words, she said I was a procrastinator. I admit that procrastination sounds better than time wasting. It's kind of less judgmental, but it's still a very powerful word in our psyche. And when we are accused of it, or when we think we do it, we get a little bit uncomfortable. My attitude towards life these days is if something doesn't bring me joy, then why should I do it? There's many opportunities out there, and why should I waste my time doing many little things that don't make me happy when I can be doing big things that fill me with joy? One thing I love doing every day is some form of creativity. Writing poetry, doing some art maybe, or perhaps being creative as an English teacher in talking to people around the world. Creativity doesn't bring me money. So does that mean it's a bad thing? And does that mean that I'm procrastinating my career somehow? Well, I don't think so, because what I do brings me joy. One of the biggest factors that contributes to procrastination is this idea that we have to be motivated to do something. And that's really been a big part of my life. If I'm not motivated to do it, then why would I waste my time trying to punish myself by doing it? Of course, I'm referring a lot here to things which are hobbies, pastimes, learning, for example. When it comes to paying bills, you can't really procrastinate with that. Those are things which have to be done, whether you're motivated or not. So when I say that I only do things that make me happy, of course, paying bills doesn't really make me happy exactly, but it's something which has to be done. And that's a habit. There's no way out of that. It needs to be done. For some other people, though, procrastinating is really a big deal. Now, my personal view is if you're procrastinating, it's most likely because you have other priorities, especially if you're older. If those other priorities are short-term priorities, then it is true that you need to look more at the long-term goal. I've always been a kind of a short-term person. I've never had much time for planning things in the long term. I've always thrown caution to the wind. If I decide to go and live in another country, I do it. If an opportunity comes up to do something, I do it. But I don't necessarily plan those things years in advance. They tend to be reactionary. So something in my life happens, and I take that opportunity to change who I am to live the way I do. I admit that that's a bit uncomfortable because when you live in the short term, you aren't always able to make long-term decisions. So, for example, if I just decide to pack up today and move to Asia without having a long-term plan, it may mean that I come back in 6 months, or it may mean that I come back in a year. Whereas if I had a definite plan, then maybe I could plan ahead for when I will return, where I will live, for example, when my friends and family can expect to see me again. But that's not for me. I'm more of a short-term kind of person, and things get very complicated if you try to plan them in the long term. And anyway, long-term plans tend not to be so long-term. They tend to change very quickly. What I'm really trying to say here is that everyone is very, very different. If you're someone who thinks only in the short term and what's over on the other side of the mountain from your window, that's perfectly okay. What another person calls procrastination, you might call creativity or dreaming. Is there anything wrong with that? It's only a problem if you make it one, or if another person tries to make it one for you. If there are things in your life which really aren't happening, things which perhaps you would like to change, then it's very simple. You just have to write down what's important for you and think about how you can get that done. Self-help books and other people often make big issues of procrastination. Why is that? Well, because it sells. You put procrastination in a book, especially a self-help book, it looks good. But are we really all serial procrastinators? Are we really all putting off things that we know need to be done? Probably. But if we're doing other things that make us happy, what's the harm? Maybe that's just the way we are. Let's put this into something like learning English. Learning English doesn't take a lot of motivation. Some people complain, oh, I'm not motivated to learn, I wish I was, blah, blah, blah. And you've already created your own idea about this. You've already created your idea about why you shouldn't do it. But yet, if learning English was like paying a bill, you would have no choice and you would be doing it anyway. It might surprise you to know that despite all the self-help books on the topic, psychologists don't agree on their theories of motivation. And the reason for that is because there's many different forces in our lives that guide us and direct us. I'm saying all of this to you because if someone's accused you of being a procrastinator, of you think of yourself as a procrastinator, let me say that again, okay? If somebody thinks of you as a procrastinator, or if you think of yourself as a procrastinator, then something is wrong. And it's not procrastination, it's about your view of a particular situation. Nothing is good or bad unless you choose to make it that way. Usually, all that's required is a pen and a piece of paper to make a little plan about what you can achieve every day. That might be playing a little English game, it might be writing an English essay, it could be preparing for an English exam. But if you call it procrastination, then you're making a problem usually out of something which doesn't exist. So before you put that label on yourself, maybe all you need to do is to sit down with a piece of paper and say, what's important for me? What do I need more of in my life? What do I need less of? And how can I achieve that? And if English comes out less, maybe it just simply means that this isn't the right time for you to be learning. You don't need to be motivated to learn English. All you need is time and perhaps a little bit of an incentive to do things the way you want to do them. It doesn't mean sitting there staring at a grammar book very bitterly. And it doesn't mean rushing off to a mountain to meditate for 6 hours about the best way to learn. It simply means a pen and a piece of paper and to be really honest with yourself. Is this thing important right now? Is English more important? What should I be doing? If you're filling your day doing 100 things, learning to play the piano, learning to swim, learning to walk a dog, blah, 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 then perhaps some of those things could be replaced with one or two long-term goals. And when I say long-term, I just mean things that you do every day without a destination. That's all I wanted to say on procrastination. So the next time you hear the word, it doesn't mean that you have to be afraid of it. It just means that you need to plan. That's all. See you. Bye.